real presence 2 weeks ago. Last week I talked about real people. And this week I'm going to talk about real purpose, right? If you, in the gathering space, there's real people, real presence, real purpose. And so just a 3-part series just to explain what this parish, what this church is all about. Obviously it's rooted in Jesus Christ. And so, this weekend, especially with the real purpose, a little bit more difficult to relate to the gospel that's been given. So I'm actually going to go back to Matthew chapter 10, same gospel, just different part of it. This will be the place of focus for a moment. But here's what we hear in the gospel of Matthew chapter 10. Jesus sent out the 12, and he said to them, "Go, cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, drive out demons. Without cost you have received, without cost you are to give." Just want you to imagine for a moment, you're one of these early disciples of Jesus. You're sitting with him and he says to you, you're going to go now. And you're going to go preach, you're going to go teach, and you're going to also cure people, you're going to raise people from the dead, you're going to drive out demons. What would your reaction to that be? Yeah, no way. I'm out. It's tough to get that reaction from this gospel because we don't hear about the reaction from the apostles and how they responded to Jesus here, but I'll go back to my favorite series right now, The Chosen. The Chosen depicts this scene very, very well. So there's Jesus. He's sitting in like a dining room, and he's at the head of the table, and he tells his apostles, he says, all right, here you go. You're going to go out, and you're going to heal people. You're going to teach. You're going to preach. You're going to tell them about the kingdom of heaven. You're going to raise people from the dead. How about that? I had my little flair to it, But Jesus just looks at them in this scene, and they just look back at him, and he's like, what are you all looking at? And they look terrified. They look terrified. And then one of the apostles, Nathanael, raises his hand and he says, did I miss something? Was there like a ceremony or a liturgical rite that I missed? And Jesus says, nope, you missed nothing. He goes, I don't feel any different. And Jesus says, no, I'll give you the power. Don't worry about that. I'll give you the power and the authority to do these things. And then another one of the apostles raises his hand and he says, you mean I'm going to preach? I don't like to say things in front of people. I'm going to do that? And another one raises his hand and he says, I've got like this limp. You're saying I'm going to heal people? And what are they saying? What are they voicing? They're voicing their own doubts and their fears. They're afraid of this call to go out. Why are they afraid? Well, because it's safe to be with Jesus. It's safe to stay there. It's risky to be sent out, to go out on our own, to carry on the mission. And that's in fact what Jesus wants. And Jesus says to them, I'll be way more effective if I send you all out now and you can prepare people for me, because I can't get to everybody as quickly as all of you can get to everybody at once, right? He said, I need your help, is his point. But I also think Jesus, in a subtle way, reminds them, you've been given everything you need. You don't need to be afraid. You don't need to be afraid of rejection. You don't need to be afraid of feeling incapable. You don't need to be afraid if you don't feel like you have the right words. Why? Well, all they need to have the right words is to talk about the person they've come to know, Jesus. They've already met him. They just have to talk about him. How do they know they can do the things? Well, because they've already seen Jesus do these amazing miracles. And just the faith and courage, if Jesus can do it and he's telling me that I can do it, that I trust him, right? They've been given all that they need to do this mission well. Question for us, when it comes to real purpose, it's, are we willing to leave the safe place? That's this church. This is the safe place to be a Christian, because we're all Christian here. We all love Jesus in this building. Are we willing to leave this safe place, not to be all millennial on you, but that was supposed to be funny, by the way. But are we willing to leave this safe place to go out into the world and to risk, to bring Jesus to those in our world? I think a really good image of this is the heart. We have this wonderful organ in our bodies that gathers blood and pumps blood out to the body. And so, why is that important? Because, when we breathe and all these other things, the heart gives blood oxygen and nutrients that it needs and sends that blood to the rest of the body so the body can flourish and survive. Right? Without the heart that pumps the blood and sends it out, we can't live. The same is true in the Christian life. Jesus is the heart. He's the center of everything that we do. And so we gather with Jesus, who is the heart, who gives us the grace, the courage, the love, the peace, all that we need to send us out to the rest of the world, the body, the church, to nourish all those that we encounter, to literally be carriers of Jesus. Just as blood is a carrier of oxygen, we become a carrier of Christ. We are sent out. And there's two things, I think, for us to remember when it comes to being people of real purpose. The first is this. This is not a passive calling. It's a proactive one. We're called to be proactive Christians. That means we don't wait for people to come to us that we can love and serve. That means that we find ways to serve. Here's an example. There's a man in our parish that last winter he was, snow had accumulated during church that day, and so he went out and he was getting his car ready, and he noticed several of the cars in the handicap parking spots, and so he started to clean those cars off too. And Marilyn, our business manager, went out, caught him doing this wonderful act of kindness, and said, "Oh, you got a few more cars to do." He said, "Yeah, I'll do those too." And she said, "Really?" I was kind of kidding. He said, "Oh no, I teach my sons all the time that they have to find ways to serve. We have to look for opportunities to serve and to bring people Jesus. We have to be willing to leave the church, to leave that safe place with Christ, to go out and to bring Jesus to the world." So that's the first point when it comes to being people of real purpose. The second one is this: to recognize that just like the early apostles, we have been equipped with all that we need. We have been given Jesus. We've met him in our lives. That's why I started with the real presence, because it's in the church that we experience Jesus through the sacraments, through the liturgy, through the scriptures, through one another. It's here that we experience Jesus. We have been given all that we need to go out into the world. We don't have to make anything up. Just tell people about the Jesus you know. That's all you have to do. That's all we have to do. There's an example of this when I was a seminarian, and I went to visit this man in the hospital, and he had just come out of quadruple bypass surgery. And he actually just passed away a month ago. His name is Frank. And when I went to see him that day, I entered into his hospital room, and the first thing he said is, "Oh, praise God, God is here." And I was like, "Where is he, man?" And I said, "You can't be talking about me. I'm not the Lord, And he said, "Oh no, but Stephen, you represent God for me. Your presence here reminds me that God is here. All I had to do was show up, and I brought Jesus with me. All we have to do is show up and bring Jesus with us to those who are starving to meet the Lord." This is what it means for us to be a community of faith, of real presence, real people, real purpose, that we experience Jesus and we bring him out to the world. And then we come back, we experience him again, and we bring him out to the world. This is the rhythm of the Christian life. What do we do all this for? It's really simple. 1 John chapter 4, verse 19, I believe. We love because Christ loved us first.